today just gonna do a little orientation for Dance 102, which is the jazz dance from streets to stage class. And feel free, you guys are able to unmute yourself. So if you have any questions while I'm going on, you can totally just pop in and stop me and ask me for questions. But for the most part, I'm just gonna give you the big overview of like how my Canvas course is set up and what the assignments look like and what we're up to. Sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to start with screen share and then we'll chat a little bit and check in and say hello, because it's fun to say hello and meet people. So I'm Amber Steele. Hello. In the regular normal world, you know, before we are all sheltering in place, I teach full-time at Skyline College. I've been there for about 11 years. And I teach, I run the dance program. So I teach modern and jazz dance regularly, and then the choreography classes, put on the dance shows, help with the musicals, and then also teach yoga and Pilates. And then another big chunk of my time is that for the past, I think, 8 maybe years, I've been teaching the dance appreciation course, which have any of you taken that? I don't think so. But that's like a survey of dance in general, from dances all over the world that are community dances and up through mostly Western Eurocentric stage dancing. So we touch on jazz in that class, but it's more of like a broad survey. And that class is supposed to fulfill your arts and humanities GE. And this class is supposed to fulfill your humanities, arts and humanities GE. So there's like 2 in the arts and humanities, and I tried to make 1 for each bucket. Caitlin, yes, you're good. You can just go play and catch up all the meeting. It was nice to see you, Caitlin. I thought I'd seen you before. Have a good day, hon.
I didn't know, my bad.
That's okay. On Friday at noon, we'll talk about the readings together. So if you have time to stop in on Friday, then we'll have like class discussion then.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Cool. Bye. So this class is brand new. It's never been taught before. I came up with the idea for it and wrote the curriculum for it, I think 2 or 3 years ago, mostly because I had joined a mostly historically accurate sort of steampunk can group, and that plus my love of jazz dance, I really missed the fact that most academic programs don't focus on jazz. They focus on modern dance and contemporary and stuff that goes on the big stage that's like more abstract or fine art. And that is part of our normal Western Eurocentric bias towards high art, which is of course an invented term. And so I always wanted to teach this class and focus on jazz dance and issues of sexuality and feminist issues. And that was how I originally wrote the class. And then over the past couple of years, I've been taking some more grad classes. I have my MFA already, but I was taking some more grad classes to do some more research and writing some papers in preparation for this. And what really became obvious is that this class needs to focus on, of course, feminist issues and sexiness, because there's tons of sexiness in jazz dance. But we, especially right now, need to focus on the contributions of the Black Americans to jazz dance, because that is like, you can't even say the word jazz without the contributions of the Black Americans. And because this is a humanities class, we need to cover that history. So it's going to be intense right now because the world is pretty intense right now. Yeah. And obviously I am a white girl. You can see that. And so I want to start this class and have this initial orientation with everybody with the beginning starting place where I am asking you guys for help and feedback. And on one hand, this class is new, so I know it's going to be there's going to be mistakes in it anyway. But because I am a person of privilege instead of a person of color, there are going to be moments when I just don't get it right. And I really need your help as my students to give me feedback, to tell me if I've accidentally like said something without thinking about it or written too quickly. I need you guys to please feel comfortable enough and brave enough to drop me an email, send me a message, and let me know if I'm not doing good enough, because I want to be able to do that well. So are we okay with that as a starting point? Because we're going to talk about hard stuff in this class. And I just want to make sure that everyone is a little bit forgiving and willing to communicate that part. Yeah?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I'm going to try and do my best. So I need your help, you guys.
Of course.
Okay. So with that said, hooray! Let's go ahead and look at the Canvas page. I think I've done 2 or 3 of these magical orientations now, so I might be able to do it pretty smoothly at this stage. Just open a new. Where's my other one? Where's my window that's just you guys? Is it this one? There, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so this is the Canvas site from my point of view, which looks different than the student view. But I just want to start here so that you guys are aware of that. If you're writing me an email and you can't figure out why I don't know what you're talking about, it's usually that. Over here you have the main Canvas links. So I'm sure you guys have all seen this already. The dashboard, which is where all your classes show up. The calendar, which usually is correct for the assignment due dates. Your inbox is the best way to contact me. You can email me directly, but that email that's direct goes to exactly the same place as the inbox email goes. They all get forwarded to my Gmail account. And the nice thing about the inbox is that it'll save our conversation in a thread for you. So if, for example, you ask me for a link and I send you a link, you can find it again in the inbox, and it's kind of like a backup, which I really appreciate. So I definitely recommend using that. This little question mark here is tech support. So they'll help you with uploading files, can't see things on the website. And also, if you're having technical difficulties because of equipment, they'll try and help you with that too. So I know that there's a lot of video streaming in this class, and if you're having trouble with your Wi-Fi or whatever, you can ask them for any sort of technical help. Okay, so this one is your course menu, and you can toggle it with this stack of pancakes, which is apparently actually the technical term, which cracks me up. And then you see how this all just popped up when I closed the stack of pancakes. The little to-do list. There's the coming up for the class, which are the Zooms and assignments that are coming up. And it does look different from your guys' view. So let me turn it on to student view. And I can close the pack of pancakes. So if you're looking for something that you normally see on the right, you might want to try toggling the pancakes, but also making it narrower or wider changes what's on your screen, which is good to know if you're on a tablet versus not a tablet. For example, if I make my screen nice and narrow, then that stuff on the side all disappears and it shows up here, which I think is kind of weird. But that's where to look. And also, if stuff on the side disappears, it's also sometimes at the very, very bottom of the page. So this is the home page view, which is essentially the same as your modules view, except for that it's got announcements at the top as well. And the announcements they all live here. And these are basically like the big email heads ups that I pre-write for you guys. So they're there if you're looking for some of that info. So it usually has like tips on the test or feedback after I'm grading the test for everybody, or heads up on what's coming in the week. So this week is our first week. I don't know if you guys have taken a summer class before or not, but it's fast, right? In a fall or spring semester, we have 17, 18 weeks together. And in the summer course, we have 6. So that means we're essentially doing 3 weeks of work at a time, which is bananas, bananas, bananas. So normally we would do 3 hours of lecture, and then another couple of hours of homework or reading, depending on the format of the class. So I'm sort of estimating that it'll take you guys 15 hours to get through everything each week. That's about the amount of time. So it should feel like a lot, and it's especially a lot this first week because you have these 0 sections that I put in. I'm trying to put little numbers at the top of the modules. So each of these chunky doodads is a module. So the 0 one is the registration information. It's like the class how-to stuff. So you've already probably all read through all of this, which is great. This is all the syllabus info. This orientation on how to navigate the course is really about how to get around within Canvas. There's a little quiz on that. This is where I will throw you some extra points for being here today and doing a little orientation Zoom with me. And then this part is my introduction, a little tiny intro on dance studies, like collegiate dance studies. So basically I wanted to give you a super fast gist of the types of dance that there are in the world, which is of course never going to include everything. It's just a rough outline, and how they relate. And then this reading, you can see how I try to title it with the page numbers in the title of the document. So there's more pages in there. I think the whole thing goes like page 1 to 12, but whatever I've put in here is the pages that I'm hoping you'll actually read. And for this one, you don't have to dive deep and memorize this stuff. It's mostly just an idea that I wanted you guys to have in your head about what's the difference between appropriation in dance and hybridization in dance. So that's what you're reading this article to understand, which is basically like appropriation is when one group just kind of steps in, thinks they got a gist of whatever that dance is and does it themselves. And then hybrid tradition of dance is when you have 2 people who are actually studying and practicing the dance together, and they learn it together, and the dances come together and change into eventually a new fused form. And that is an important thing to think about because dance styles definitely come together over time, but sometimes it's ethical and sometimes it's one group taking advantage of another. So that's what this one is about. Just a gist. Yeah. Okay, so we're in the summertime. So I tried to set this up so you have 1 letter per week. Yeah, and then these letter chunks, as I develop it into the fall section, should end up being 3 weeks at a time. So that's one module per week in the fall, and in the summer we're doing 1 letter per week. So this week, because it's orientation, you have the 0 and the A. So here's your A, and this is where we're starting about our first category. So this week we're covering the idea of community in dance as both a community bonding mechanism and as activism and sort of the rebellious nature of dancing. So you would go through and read these sections, and these are essentially my lectures. So if we were in a face-to-face class, this would be the stuff that I would cover in class when we're talking. And it's a lot this week, I know, because it's just a lot. So please understand that I have empathy, and I know that you're going to rush through some of it. So on Friday, my hope is that when we have the optional meeting on Friday at noon, that you guys will have gotten through all the material once, but you might not feel like you totally understand it. And that Friday time will be for me to help you guys by pointing out what I thought was important in the reading and the watching, and then to like encourage you guys to discuss it together with each other, because there's going to be some heavy stuff that I really want you guys to get a chance to talk out. And that's what the Fridays are for. So each week you'll have 1 to 3 of these modules that start with a letter, and they have readings, they have video watchings, and then there are usually 1 or 2 small quizzes per week or a discussion. So there's a little bit of activity. So the A section, we have this new Jim Crow reading. So that's deep. We're definitely going to talk about that on Friday tomorrow. and then more ways of talking about dance. So I'll talk about that in a hot second. And then a little vocabulary quiz. This one's pretty brief. It's just talking about how dance is used as activism throughout time. And then our Zoom discussion. So the Friday Zoom discussions I hadn't initially planned, but when I started doing these orientations, people were asking for them. So my thought is that they're going to be extra credit. If you show up, I'm going to throw you 5 points. And if you participate in the conversation and like text a little of your own insight or your own questions, then I'll give you another 5 points for that. And those will go towards the big assignments. So I'm going to come on over here to the official syllabus, and I'm going to pause for a second. Do we have any questions before I keep talking for the rest of the universe? Are we good?
I think we're good for now. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so you guys have probably seen all this already, I hope, which is good. And then the overall course breakdown is 50% this weekly stuff that we're doing. So this will be anything that's in those modules, you're reading the pages, and then participating in discussions, quizzes, or assignments. I'll come back to the peer review part. And then there's a 25% of the grade is the midterm and 25% is the final. So right now with the extra discussions, because I really want to encourage you guys to come in there and talk it out with me, those extra points will go into, as extra credit, into half of them go into the midterm and half of them go into the final exam. So they'll buffer your midterm and final exam grades, which is nice. And my hope with each of those things is that they're going to be possibly a few multiple choice questions, but mostly they'll be short essays. And I'm planning on telling you what those questions are the week before. So for example, this is my outline of what we're covering in class for the whole summer. And I haven't sent it out to you guys mostly because I'm still changing it. Just like shifting what week we do what to try and make sense out of it. But I wanted to briefly run over it with you guys so that you have an idea of where we're going. So in my Dance 100 class, everything is chronological. And I just cover things from basically like 1800s dance to now in order in general. And in this class, instead of organizing it that way, I wanted to do it more like other humanities courses that I've taken, especially in community college. I took these classes called Gen Train classes. I've never heard the term since, but it was like art plus history plus humanities plus a little bit of technology, and they like bundled them all up together into a workshop, which I thought was super cool because it made sense how the things interacted together. So for this course, my goal is to organize things by theme rather than necessarily by time. So this week we're talking about dance and how communities use dance to bond with each other and make their own sense of self, and also to rebel against other pressures in the world. So we're gonna watch dances that are community dances that like happen on the street and in people's homes, but also we're gonna look at how those steps evolved into hip hop dance steps. And we're going to talk about things from both the Middle Passage and the beginning of slavery and the beginning of our country. And also we're going to be looking at competitive dancing as it happens like now on World of Dance, for example. So rather than picking an era of time, I'm trying to give us a theme and dances that relate to that theme. So next week we'll do exotic body, so great break dance, acrobatics, and circus tricks. So all of the things that came from elements of breakdancing and early dance from the people who immigrated and the beginning of the jazz age, vaudeville performers, and how those related to dance now. So we're going to watch some of like Nicholas Brothers from the 1920s and 1930s, and also some breakdancing and also some Cirque du Soleil dancing. So like across time, one theme. Third week will be dance and economic inequality. So we'll talk about how dance has been a way for performers to get out of poverty through their own talent in situations where normally you wouldn't be able to break through that glass ceiling, and also how that is sort of the myth of success of American capitalism that all of us are like committed to, and how that entity of vaudeville sold that dream to everybody. Week D, what is American? So this is when we're going to look at some of the big musicals going on stage, both like golden era of Hollywood and also Broadway, big stages where it's also simultaneous with civil rights movement issues. So we're going to look at the way that different choreographers either appropriated or hybridized dances and tried to change the like white part of performance and the other people of color performances. And in after and around the civil rights movement, you really see the artistic community trying to present what is American in terms of a more diverse painting. Whether it's accurate or not, we can question, but that was the theme of a D. And then E is going to be my favorite section because of all the dances that we look at. So we're going to look at eroticism and the way that bodies are eroticized in jazz dance, both by the person doing the dancing and also by the audience. So we're going to look at feminism, sex work, eroticization of the other as the themes, and we're going to talk about Josephine Baker, who's like the first Black superstar and kind of the first superstar ever in the world. Folies Bergère, Can-Can, we're going to look at burlesque, we're going to look at K-pop, and heels dancing, and also talk about Bob Fosse, who was a huge choreographer in the 60s through the 80s, and did lots of really famous musicals that are mind-blowing. So, and then our last week we'll do sexuality, gender, and LGBTQ rights. And I would love it if I could get us a whole musical to watch each week, but that's a little bit rough. So if nothing else, just in terms of like finding a musical that's accessible to everybody, but if not, we'll watch excerpts from everything. And then you can kind of see in here as I'm zooming around, there are the questions, or at least the rough drafts of the questions for your final and midterm are done. So our midterm will be during week D. So in our weekly discussion the week before, we're going to talk about the week C material, but I'm also going to make sure that you guys have those questions the week before the midterm and the week before the final, because I want you guys to make a double-sided cheat sheet of like dates and themes and names that you know you're going to want to talk about, because your exam itself will be you guys writing with a restricted period of time on those topics. So I want to give you guys the opportunity the week before to study together to prepare for that, and then the testing part of it will be that you guys got to write it out in a certain period of time. And I think that might be the peer review discussion, is to study for your final so that you guys get a chance to do that together. So here's this peer review part. And that's not what I want to do. I'm gonna leave that. So the important thing to know about the peer review relates to all of the assignments in general, which is that there's a due date and there's an available until date. So the due date is when you guys should try and get that done. But the available until date is the buffer period where you have until you can turn something in late, yeah? And it's really important with the peer reviews, because if you're doing a discussion or a peer review, then you need to get something in the first place to be able to participate in the second place. So for your discussions, like the icebreaker discussion, a bunch of you have already posted and responded, which is fantastic. But basically by the due date, I'm hoping that everybody has posted an initial post, and then you have until the available date to keep talking to each other and really flesh out those conversations. When it comes to the peer review, the important thing about the due date is that if you don't, you have to submit by the due date in a peer review in order for the system to assign you peers to work with. So if you miss that, then there's a chance that you don't get to complete the assignment. So you want to make sure that you do that first part by the submission date, yeah? And then there'll either be a checkbox of rubric for you guys to use or written comments assigned. I usually do both. And I don't have any set up yet to show you, but just know that it's much easier to do your peer reviews on a desktop computer or a laptop rather than on a tablet because the little buttons kind of disappear and it's a mess. So I'll remind you of that when we get there, but anyhow. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the course. This is my view again, so you can see that there is a lot more material here that is not visible to you guys yet, and that's because I'm still working on it. I'm just trying to stay a week ahead of you guys, somehow. So you know what to do each week, you know what the grading is and how all that works. If you, on the left-hand side, there's the grades section. So I'm gonna hit that. Oh, actually, wait. Let's do that from the student view because it's much more effective for me to show you that. Go back. There we go. Okay. So grades from the student view or not. I think I have to turn it back on. So what I want to show you guys is how to read my feedback because I usually write kind of a lot of feedback. I always try not to, but I always do. So here's the grades page in the student view. And I haven't made any fake submissions here, but you can see that like when something's due and you haven't turned it in yet, you get a little red thingy there. This column will be your score. This is the total possible. And then over here is the place where you'll see a little icon that has like 2 little chat bubbles or a little box with writing in it. And you can click on either of those things to read my feedback, which I totally recommend because a lot of the times I'm giving feedback because I know that I'm going to come back to that topic later on. So when you come in to check something, please do click on the feedback on the side there if you can. And then, okay, so I'm going back to modules page. This is how I normally watch the modules page. So if I'm trying to direct you around the class, I'm probably talking about this view, which is the same as home. But there's also this assignments page. And initially it defaults to show by date for you guys. So you can see like the icebreaker discussion was already due, it shows up here, and then there's upcoming assignments in the next category. But I am usually looking at the show by type. So make sure you toggle that over for a couple of reasons. One is that from show by type, you can see the way that the grade is broken down. And this is why it's most important is in this assignments view, you can see how many points there are, the due date, and the available until date. So I think it's really nice to be able to see all of those things together. And you'll notice that each of these activities has a point score, but this orientation Zoom that we're doing right now does not have a point score, and that means that that item is extra credit. So you can see also here that in the final exam section, there's 3 of those weekly discussions that will be extra credit for that final exam, and the same is true of the midterm. Some of you have already noticed that, for example, this quiz, which was initially in this week, I had moved it this week to next week because it's got more material than what we're covering this time. So you can see it here, even though you can't see it in your home or modules page, but don't worry about when that happens. It usually means that I have pushed something off or delayed it. So that's why I recommend that people come back to the modules page to see what is on the plate. All right. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? I think that might be it. All right, guys, hit me with some questions. Whew. It's a lot of talking. Any questions? Are you guys alive out there? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm unmuting everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Do you guys have questions about any of that stuff?
You're very
No.
good. so I don't have any preference.
Yeah, thank you for being so thorough.
No problem. I finally feel like I'm getting through this well. First day, it took me like a whole hour to get through that, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to also say, since we're talking about all these issues of like privilege and stuff like that, I wanted to talk about this page that you're reading at the end of our week that's called Avoiding Cliches. And so I wrote this for my other class initially, but I wanted to kind of throw out there that I went to UC Berkeley and majored initially in comparative literature. So that's good to know about me, is that I am really into the written word. I ended up double majoring in dance, but my first love, I thought I was going to be a writing teacher until I fell in love with dance. So this page, because I'm your teacher, is where I'm trying to explain to you guys how much my goal is to help you guys express what you're seeing and analyzing in a dance in a very clear and understandable way, especially for folks, if you're talking to folks who haven't watched a lot of dance before. So one of the things that you're reading all of this vocabulary this week for is to be able to describe a phrase of movement. So there's moves, right? Like punch, kick, swing, jump, turn. And then each of those moves, you can add like an adjective or an adverb onto it. So you can punch hard, or you can turn fast, or you can run downstage towards the audience. That would be an element. We talked about elements of dance. So in a phrase of movement, you're going to have a movement with an element, and you'll have 5 of those approximately. So it's about 10 to 15 seconds of dance that you're describing chronologically. And the goal there is to be able to talk to someone about a dance that they may or may not have seen with enough detail that they could imagine it in their head. And when we first start learning how to talk about dance, usually we use a bunch of cliches that are, too common, so they don't really mean anything. Like almost every dance is passionate. Almost every dance is going to be with the music, although there is like more detailed with the music and less detailed with the music. But generally speaking, almost anything you see, the dancer is going to be really excited about it and dancing with the movement. And if there's a love story involved, there's going to be chemistry, right? So the temptation is to identify those things right away. But my goal here, and that I'm talking about in this page, is I'm trying to get you guys to be more specific. And the reason why is because I want you each to really feel empowered in your own voice and talking about what you love and what you don't love. Because when we can talk about dance, then it gets shared and it gets funded. And especially now that the arts are in so much trouble, it's even more important for us to make sure that we support them. What I don't mean, and this is the important part, is I might correct or encourage your writing in a different way. And it's not because I expect you to like what I like, because that is not my expectation at all. Like what people like in art is absolutely individual. And I'm going to get really excited about the art that I like, but that doesn't mean it's going to really excite you, and vice versa. But really what makes me happier than anything else is if a student shows me a new piece of art that, or maybe it's something I've seen before, but I didn't really get excited about. But when they can explain to me what lights their fire about that dance, and especially if you guys can like change my mind or point out to me something that I previously ignored, that is like teacher gold for me. That is totally my goal. So I just wanted to spend this whole page talking about how we talk about dance, to reiterate that I'm not trying to get you guys to agree with me. I want you guys to feel empowered in your own voice, to speak out about what you love. Does that kind of make sense there?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I think that's everything except for saying hi. Yeah? Cool. Yes. Ezra, he is at work. Oh my gosh, honey, I'm so sorry. So if you guys have a moment to chat or verbally just like say anything about yourself at all, I'd love to hear something personal about you. Could be a fun fact, could be how you ended up in this class, what you're hoping we cover, anything at all.
I'm excited for the course.
For the what? I'm sorry, I missed your last.
Oh, I'm excited for your course. It seems really fun and interesting.
Hey, thank you.
Fun fact, I have 8 sisters, no brothers.
8 sisters. Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's cool. My mother-in-law is one of 8 too, and I'm an only
Awesome.
child, so I'm totally in awe of that parenting.
Really? Yeah, I'm the middle child.
Right in the middle. Where
Yeah.
are you?
I'm number 7.
You're number 7.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How about you, Teresa?
Oh, I have a dog. Her name's Lucky. She doesn't really like me that much, but I still love her.
Awesome. What kind of a dog is she? Big, little?
She's a miniature pinscher, but she's kind of getting chubby. She's so
Chonky Pinscher. That's cute. Yay. I think that might be it, you guys, unless you have questions. I did want to remind everybody that next month we are officially done on the 24th. I think maybe the 26th might be the technical last day. But just to remind you guys that like normally I'm putting the assignments in and giving you an extra week as a buffer zone to turn everything in. So my hope is that you'll like read and watch in the week, check in for this noon Zoom on Friday for discussion. And then if you can't make it all, it'll be recorded and it'll be there waiting for you. And then do your quizzes and activities after that. If you haven't already, but to be aware that we're going to wrap things up pretty hard and fast on the last week because I am pregnant and like
Woohoo!
I'm pretty pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm going to be
Congratulations.
trying to like get through my grading the next week as fast as possible, and I won't be able to accept very much late material because we got to prepare over here. So I want to just, I'm like that whole last week of class, I'm just going to be reminding everybody obsessively, like, get your work in because I got to draw the line. And,
Are you having a boy or a girl?
There will be a point where I will not be friendly anymore. I'll just be like, I can't do it.
Are you having a boy or a girl?
I'm having a girl.
Awesome.
It's our first kid. Yeah, we're really excited. Yay.
Do you have a name in mind?
We narrowed it down to about 5, but not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So exciting. Yeah. Cool. All right. So I'm gonna let you guys go off and enjoy this beautiful weather.
I'm at work, so I'm not enjoying.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well,
yeah.
is there anything else I can do for you guys or any other last?
No, that's it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much.
I'm here, and I'm teaching your class, which I'm doing my best to like get everything together. It's going to be bumpy, so I apologize in advance. And then I have yoga classes online, so I'll be around pretty much like in the weekday. If you want to drop me a line, that's totally fine, and we can set up a Zoom. But I try not to work on the weekends because I tend to be a workaholic and trying to have good boundaries. So do feel free to message me early rather than waiting to the last minute if you have a question. Cool.
Alrighty. Take care.
Yay. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Giving roll call.